Here I am, catering to your needs as well, despite your uninvited presence. A little gratitude wouldn't hurt, I muttered under my breath, trying to keep my composure. The water here is exquisite, isn't it? I remarked, trying to lighten the mood with a subtle compliment, though it felt futile in the midst of the tension. Here I am, sitting in this upscale establishment where I'm supposedly welcomed, left with nothing but a solitary glass of water, while the rest of the family indulges. My mother-in-law's cutting words sliced through the air once again, leaving me speechless. My name's Chloe. Fresh out of college, I dove headfirst into the corporate world, dedicating myself to sales ever since. Despite my achievements, my parents incessantly badger me about settling down. Succumbing to their persistent pleas, I reluctantly signed up for a matchmaking service at the age of 37. I married Ricky, who happens to be 5 years my junior, thinking it would ease my parents' worries. Little did I know, a sudden trial awaited us. Ricky's company folded amid an economic slump. Thankfully, between our combined incomes and my prudent savings, we managed to weather the storm. I encouraged Ricky to take on the role of homemaker temporarily until he secured another job. Admittedly, his domestic skills leave much to be desired, but having someone manage the household while I support us financially is a relief. Despite my extra effort and overtime to enhance sales materials and earn performance bonuses, months passed with no sign of Ricky's willingness to re-enter the workforce. When I suggested he consider part-time work, Ricky brushed it off, deeming it unsuitable for his future aspirations. As time wears on, Ricky grows increasingly agitated whenever I broach the subject of his job search. While he may appear unperturbed, still receiving unemployment benefits, his prolonged unemployment leaves me on edge. Eventually, Ricky begins to make demands for money, hinting that his savings from his bachelor days have evaporated. Though I never knew the extent of his savings, his post-marriage spending habits seemed extravagant. Whether it was splurging on home gym equipment or indulging in the latest video games, it's evident that he wasn't prudent with his finances. Now, with his unemployment benefits exhausted, the financial burden falls squarely on my shoulders. In exchange for Ricky handling household chores, I've taken on the responsibility of covering most expenses, from rent and utilities to groceries and daily essentials, solely from my paycheck. However, I'm stretched thin, unable to provide any more financial support. Despite this, Ricky argues, I don't have a single dollar to my name. Can't you throw in a bonus every now and then? Ricky's request pushes me to my limit, and I retort sharply, I don't have an allowance either, and I simply can't afford to give more. I understand the urgency of finding a full-time job, but even a part-time job would suffice for now. We can't continue like this. Our disputes over finances have become all too common, yet they always reach a standstill. Eventually, Ricky begins receiving financial assistance from his parents, further straining my relationship with them. During a visit to his parents, my mother-in-law lectures, a wife should quietly support her husband, earn more, and allow my son his freedom. Such comments only deepen the chasm between me and Ricky's parents. One evening, Ricky surprises me with plans to dine out. Excitedly, he reveals reservations at a prestigious local restaurant, rumored to be a hidden gem. He gleefully mentions that he's booked a table for 4, including his parents. With caution, I inquire about the affordability of such a lavish restaurant. Ricky's gaze shifts momentarily before he begins to explain. To my surprise, he reveals that he had quietly taken on a part-time job. It's a brief daytime shift, and after our past disagreements about full-time employment, he struggled to find the right moment to tell me. As a gesture of apology and reconciliation, he arranged the dinner reservation at a nice restaurant. Touched by his sincerity, I accept his invitation wholeheartedly. Although I harbor numerous questions about his workplace and position, Ricky reassures me that we'll discuss it over dinner, opting to keep the details vague for the time being. Despite the lingering curiosity, the cheerful topic succeeds in lifting the weight of tension between us, if only temporarily. However, the true purpose behind the dinner becomes clear days later in a cozy private room at the restaurant, and an unexpected surge of anger grips me as I realize the reality of the situation. From the moment we set foot inside, there's an unsettling aura emanating from the restaurant staff, signaling that something is amiss. They appeared slightly taken aback by our arrival, exchanging murmurs before my mother-in-law took charge and led the way. Despite any underlying tension, I maintained a polite smile and assured them that everything was all right, urging them to proceed to our designated room. Once inside, Seating arrangements were swiftly made, adhering to the family's customary positioning. I found myself, as usual, seated closest to the entrance. It seemed an unspoken tradition whether this meal was Ricky's attempt at reconciliation or not. Without protest, I took my place. As the first dish was presented, a subtle unease began to settle in the room. The waiter paused upon entering, a troubled expression flickering across his features. My mother-in-law, with an air of grace seldom seen, gestured towards my father-in-law, indicating his place first, followed by herself, then our son. "I can hardly wait to see what delights await us," I remarked, a sense of relief washing over me. The waiter proceeded to serve each dish in the designated order: father-in-law, mother-in-law, Ricky, and then began to explain each course in detail. It wasn't until they reached Ricky's plate that the realization struck. My meal had yet to be served. Gathering my resolve, I waited until the waiter had finished his explanations before speaking up. "Excuse me." My plate remained conspicuously empty as I sat there, staring at the glass of water placed before me, courtesy of my mother-in-law. Before I could voice my concern, the waiter attempted to intervene, his eyes widening with apparent discomfort. However, my mother-in-law swiftly intercepted, her laughter cutting through the air as she dismissed my predicament. "Oh, Flo, you never fail to astonish with your audacity. A daughter-in-law is but a stranger to the family. Is it not enough that you intrude upon our family dinner uninvited? Now you demand a meal? Water is more than adequate for a woman as impertinent and clueless as you. Besides, this is no ordinary water. It's from a prestigious establishment. You should consider it a privilege." While I had no qualms about abstaining from food to savor the flavors later, this treatment was beyond absurd. As my mother-in-law ushered the waiter towards the exit, she added insult to injury, instructing him to charge an exorbitant $1,000 for the water. "Consider it a steal for the opportunity to drink water in such opulent surroundings," she quipped. "Take your time. We won't be hurried." Rage surged within me, bubbling up from the depths of my being. Glancing at Ricky, I hoped for some form of support, but he remained indifferent, focused solely on his meal. My father-in-law mirrored this indifference, casually sipping his drink as though nothing had happened. It dawned on me that they had orchestrated this scenario from the outset, intending to leave me with the bill. I felt utterly defeated, realizing that Ricky's promise of treating me with his part-time earnings was merely a ploy to draw me into this humiliation. In my frustration, anger seemed futile. "Fine," I relented, my voice heavy with resignation. "I'll cover the cost of the water and depart. Enjoy your family time." With that, I exited the room to settle the bill, the echoes of their coarse laughter trailing behind me into the hallway. The attentive waiter noticed my departure and offered an alternative, mentioning that although the pre-ordered meal couldn't be served, other options were available. Grateful for his consideration, I declined, insisting on only paying for the water before making my swift exit. To my surprise, the waiter informed me that the water was complimentary. With a mixture of relief and indignation, I promptly left the restaurant behind. Witnessing Ricky's behavior today was the final confirmation I needed to proceed with divorce proceedings. His prolonged unemployment, coupled with a lack of effort in job hunting, had strained our relationship to its breaking point. Instead of taking responsibility, he chose to conspire with his parents, shifting the blame onto me when the financial reality hit home. Today's ordeal of humiliation and harassment was the ultimate betrayal, extinguishing any lingering affection I had for him. It was clear that I could no longer endure this marriage. Upon returning home, I wasted no time in packing my belongings, determined to leave behind any remnants of my life with Ricky. Our once shared space now felt suffocating, overrun by his hobbies and possessions. As I reflected on our situation, I realized that my personal belongings were minimal, having prioritized saving since Ricky's business downfall cast a shadow over our finances. With a sense of purpose, I lugged my trusty suitcase from my college days, filled it with essentials, and set off for the hotel where I would spend the night, a temporary refuge as I embarked on my journey towards a fresh start. The following morning brought a newfound sense of vigor as I indulged in a hearty hotel breakfast before heading off to work. It had been an eternity since I'd relished such a meal. Typically, my breakfast consisted of nothing more than a plain slice of toast, devoid of jam or butter, due to my tight financial constraints. I marveled at the recent improvements in hotel services, appreciating the small luxuries amidst my mundane routine. En route to work, I made a brief stop at the city office to collect divorce papers from the after-hours window. Though only my portion had been filled out, an unexpected wave of optimism washed over me. With the decision to divorce now made, it became apparent that I had endured far more unhappiness in this marriage than I had initially realized. Upon arriving at the office and immersing myself in work, I couldn't help but notice a disturbance emanating from the neighboring department. As the claimer drew nearer, gradually encroaching upon our own workspace, I exchanged curious glances with a colleague seated beside me. Before long, the disruption reached our department, accompanied by a familiar voice calling out my name. "Hey Chloe, come out here. You can't just disappear because you didn't come home. Mom and Dad are willing to forgive you if you return and apologize." My heart raced as I stood up, utterly flabbergasted to see Ricky and my in-laws standing at the entrance of my office. Their hostile expressions only intensified upon locking eyes with me, and they wasted no time in making a beeline towards me. My mother-in-law thrust a receipt from the previous night's dinner into my hands. "I explicitly instructed you to pay $1,000 for that water, didn't I? You, the wife of my son, have orchestrated this deceit." Their accusations pierced through the air, disregarding the attention drawn from my colleagues. Ricky and my mother-in-law continued their tirade, their voices echoing through the office, while my father-in-law adopted his customary innocent bystander demeanor, just as he had the day before. The audacity of their actions left me speechless. It was incomprehensible that they would go to such lengths, even taking time off to confront me in my workplace. Yet no matter how forcefully they pushed, I remained resolute. If I'm deemed a stranger to your family, then why should I be held accountable for the meal? I retorted, my voice firm. I refuse to tolerate this harassment in my workplace. Should you persist in causing disruption, I will not hesitate to involve the authorities. A sudden sense of dread washed over me as I realized Ricky's intentions. Without warning, he seized a computer monitor from a nearby desk, his actions fueling my apprehension. Witnessing this escalation, my mother-in-law seized a nearby phone and declared, "We'll demonstrate the consequences of defying us," before violently slamming it onto the floor. The deafening crash reverberated through the room, triggering screams and pandemonium among the female staff, plunging the office into chaos. As panic ensued, my mother-in-law and Ricky, their faces flushed with anger, began hurling objects indiscriminately. Amidst the chaos, my father-in-law finally spoke, his tone laced with a strange detachment. If only Chlo had complied and paid as instructed, none of this would have transpired, he remarked apologetically, addressing the room. "Please accept our apologies for the inconvenience. Chlo will take care of the cleanup." His attempt at humor fell flat, his nonchalant demeanor contrasting starkly with the mayhem unfolding before us. Gradually, people began to distance themselves from him, wary of any interaction. Feeling a surge of urgency, I knew I had to intervene. Amidst the chaos, I raised my voice, imploring Ricky and his cohorts to cease their destructive rampage. Yet, attempting to reason with individuals consumed by rage felt akin to conversing with an impenetrable barrier. Frantically, I reached out to grab Ricky's arm in a bid to make him listen, but before I could even make contact, the situation took a dramatic turn. Suddenly, the room was flooded with the presence of police officers, their arrival signaling a swift end to the turmoil. It appeared that someone from the adjacent department had alerted the authorities upon witnessing the mayhem unfold. Ricky's accusatory glare pierced through the chaos, his enraged voice cutting through the cacophony. "You called the cops," he bellowed before launching a punch towards me. In an instant, 3 officers swiftly intervened, swiftly restraining him and bringing him to the ground. It was a scene straight out of a television drama as they proceeded to arrest him on the spot for assault. Later that day, a surreal convergence occurred at the police station where the company's CEO, myself, and Ricky's parents found ourselves gathered. The company promptly filed a report detailing the property damage incurred during the chaos. Seeking legal counsel regarding the harassment and tumultuous events, I faced the challenge of substantiating certain claims, particularly regarding the incidents at the restaurant and Ricky's financial negligence. After deliberation with my lawyer, it became apparent that pursuing legal action would be arduous and uncertain. Hence, the decision was made to pursue a settlement. Negotiations became complex once Ricky secured legal representation, but eventually we reached an agreement for a divorce devoid of asset division, coupled with compensation for the emotional distress inflicted by Ricky's workplace violence. Meanwhile, the assault case concluded swiftly, culminating in compensation for the injuries I sustained within 2 months. Regarding the damages incurred by the company, all legal battle seemed futile and potentially detrimental due to the risk of negative publicity. Thus, the company opted for an out-of-court settlement, prioritizing damage control over monetary gain, ultimately agreeing to a substantial settlement sum in lieu of legal action. In the aftermath, Ricky emerged as the sole individual burdened with a criminal record, while he and his parents found themselves saddled with a substantial debt owed to both me and the company. Struggling to fulfill their financial obligations, they resorted to tapping into their retirement funds, leaving them financially destitute. In a last-ditch effort to salvage Ricky's prospects, his parents orchestrated his return home and utilized their connections to secure him a position at another company. However, this newfound opportunity proved short-lived. Unbeknownst to them, Ricky's new employer maintained business ties with my company. Upon learning of Ricky's tumultuous history, exacerbated by rumors circulating about his volatile behavior, the company's CEO swiftly took action to protect their reputation, prompting Ricky to resign from his position. With little recourse, Ricky retreated back to his familial abode, abandoning his latest employment endeavor. As word of his criminal past began to circulate within the neighborhood, it eventually reached the workplace of my in-laws, further tarnishing their reputation. Now not only associated with harassment, they found themselves branded as individuals harboring a dangerous and destructive individual who had invaded their daughter-in-law's workplace. As the story spread from colleagues to higher-ups, the repercussions were swift and severe. Both of my in-laws were terminated from their positions despite being on the cusp of retirement. Facing the grim reality of unemployment, they sought legal assistance in a bid to rectify the situation. Conversely, I opted to forgo further legal action, realizing that I no longer needed additional reports and recognizing the futility of hastening into marriage. Fortunately, the pressure from my parents to tie the knot has ceased. It's possible they harbor a sense of remorse over the incident, as they've refrained from broaching the subject altogether. While I empathize with my parents' predicament, I can't help but feel relieved by the newfound freedom from matrimonial expectations. Instead, I've redirected my focus towards making amends and contributing positively to the company I inadvertently troubled. Immersed in new projects, I find myself experiencing the most fulfilling days of my life, embracing this newfound sense of purpose and fulfillment. I've spent $60,000 just to make you happy. But why do you call me a wallet or an ATM? Lily, who is Max's wife, said angrily. We never asked for your help, she added. If it bothers you so much, why don't you stop the payments? Max said in a rude way. Even my eldest son Max acts like this, Lily continued. After making me pay for a $20,000 party and then a $40,000 wedding, they treat me like a money machine. Maybe I raised my son wrong. I won't let them boss me around anymore. I understand what you're saying. Are you sure about that? You know we won't let you see your grandchild, right? Max threatened. You don't have to worry. I'm happy to stop the payments from now on. It was a big change for Max and Lily, who have been taking care of me. My name is Chloe. I'm 56 years old. I've been struggling alone since my husband died 12 years ago. I work hard at a good company, where I've been for a long time. Some people might say I'm focused on my career. My children were teenagers when my husband passed away. Now they've finished college and have jobs. That makes me feel a bit better. I hope they'll start families of their own soon. As I thought about these things, I lived comfortably in the condo where I used to live with my children. Then, one day, Max called me and said, I want you to meet a woman I'm thinking of marrying. I was happy to agree. Max is turning 28 this year and works as a salesman for a big company. He used to be a bit of a player, but it seemed like he was finally settling down. On the day he brought the woman he wanted to marry, he said, Mom, it's been a while. This is my fiancée, Lily. Nice to meet you, as he introduced her. Lily worked as a receptionist at Max's company. She was very pretty, and I felt proud of my son for finding her. Congratulations to both of you. I'm here to support your happiness, I said with a smile as we talked. Eventually, they mentioned having an engagement party soon. I need to get ready. Mom, can you pay for the engagement party? It'll cost $20,000, Max asked me. I was surprised because I thought it would be around $10,000. But seeing how happy they were, I agreed and said, sure, it's a happy occasion. Later, my oldest daughter, Mia, came to visit. How's work going, Mia? I asked. The deadline was yesterday. I'm doing fine, Mom. Don't worry, Maya replied. Mia draws manga for a living. She hasn't had a big success yet, but she has her own series and earns enough to live on. She's always been good at drawing and loves manga, so it's the perfect job for her. By the way, Mom, Max is getting married, right? Maya asked. Yes, he came by with his fiancée, Lily, and they asked for $20,000 for the engagement party. I told her. Wow, that's a lot of money, Maya said. Well, they said they're going to use it for their wedding and to give gifts to thank people. Is that how it works? And so on the day of the engagement party, I gave them the $20,000 as promised. Both Lily and her parents seemed very happy. We'll use this money to start our new life together, they said as they put away the $20,000. They didn't give any gifts of thanks like I expected, but I told myself that's just how engagement parties go. As long as they have a happy marriage, it's okay, I thought. But a few days later, Max surprised me. We're having a big wedding with lots of guests, maybe around 250 people, he said. That sounds great. Mom, can you pay for the wedding up front? What? I have to pay. I thought weddings were paid for by the couple, I said. I'm counting on you, Mom. It's normal for parents to pay for the wedding. I already gave a lot of money for the engagement party. Lily's parents can't help, and I'll pay you back for the wedding gift, Max explained. I reluctantly looked at the bill Max had brought. To my surprise, it was for $40,000. The thought of paying so much money up front made me feel dizzy. How big is this wedding going to be? Isn't this too much? I asked. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and Lily wants everything to be perfect. Plus, don't we want Lily's parents to see how happy she is? Max said, making me feel trapped. I couldn't say no. Okay, it's a special occasion, I agreed. Max smiled and thanked me before leaving the room. Later, I paid the $40,000 up front to the wedding venue. It was tough to use my retirement savings, but I did it for my child's happiness. 2 months later, on the wedding day, the venue was more luxurious than I expected. Mia and I arrived early to get ready. As I was about to knock on the bride and groom's door, I heard them talking. I can't believe we're having such a fancy wedding thanks to Mom, Lily said. Yeah, and she gave us $20,000 for the engagement party, Max added. I even bought a new bag. What a great wallet, more like an ATM. Let's keep taking from it, Max. Mia and I were shocked to hear this. Lily happily said, if we ask her, she'll probably pay for the rest of the wedding, right? Of course she will. Then let's use the wedding gift for a honeymoon trip to Hawaii, and we'll bring my parents too. How about buying a high-rise apartment for our new home? That sounds perfect. Let's get my mother to pay. She has the money, Lily said. My hand was shaking as I raised it to knock on the door. Mia took my shoulder and led me away. I took a deep breath and held Mia's hand. Mia, there's something I need you to find out when the ceremony starts, I said. Sure, Mom. Leave it to me. And so Max and Lily's wedding began. I couldn't stop thinking about their earlier conversation. When the MC introduced me and the spotlight fell on me, all I could do was bow. Mia, who had been going around toasting, came back. Mom, I checked with Lily's relatives. Both of her parents are fine. That's terrible. We need to confront them. I'll stay by your side, Mia said as it was time for the first outfit change. Lily left first, then Max followed. Now it's the groom's turn. His mother, Chloe, who raised him on her own, will escort him, the announcer said. I walked down the aisle to meet Max. Max seemed a bit drunk but happy. He said into the microphone, "This is my amazing mom." I kept a serious face and walked with Max out of the hall to the dressing room. Mia was there and talked to Max. Max, I need to ask you something. What is it, sis? Hurry up, I need to change, Max said quickly as he undressed. Mia heard their earlier conversation in the dressing room. How could you talk about Mom like that? She asked. You heard us? Well, whatever. Max replied rudely. Lily, who had changed into her dress, came in. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law, what's going on? Mia asked. Lily, we found out that your parents are healthy. They both have good jobs. Why are you making Mom pay for everything? What's happening? Mia asked. Lily exaggeratedly acted scared. Is this some kind of bullying from a sister-in-law? Scary, Lily said mockingly. I lost my patience with her disrespectful attitude. I've already paid $60,000 to make you happy, and yet you treat people like they're just wallets or ATMs. What kind of behavior is that? Lily laughed as if it was a joke, acting all superior over such a small amount. We're not in debt to you. Plus, it's normal for the groom's parents to pay for the wedding, right? But you lied about your parents being sick to buy a new bag, Mia said. Oh, you were listening in. That's a terrible habit. Watch your mouth, Mia, Lily angrily replied. Then she looked at Mia. I don't want to be lectured by an older sister who's still single at 30 and has a weird job as a manga artist. Maybe you're too nerdy to get married. You're hopeless when it comes to marriage, sis. Mia was stunned into silence. How dare you speak to me like that if you want to see your grandkids, Mom, Lily said. Mia couldn't believe what she was hearing. How dare you talk to me like that? I tried to scold them, but Max laughed and said, if you're going to talk like that, try stopping the payments. After all, I'm successful. I can handle it. It would be a pity to lose the money. I paid $20,000 for the engagement party and $40,000 for the wedding. And this is how they treat me. No thanks, only meanness. I must have made a mistake in raising my son. I've had enough. I won't let them control me anymore. I heard what you said. Are you sure? If you don't listen, you won't see your grandchild, Max threatened. But I said firmly, that's okay. You don't need to visit. I'll happily stop paying. Max and Lily were shocked. I'm ending our relationship here. I wish you all the best, I said, taking Maya's hand, and we left the place. We could still hear the happy sounds of the party as we walked away. A month later, Mia and I were having tea at home when the intercom buzzed loudly. Oh, Mom, it's Max. What should we do? Let him in, please, Mia said. Max, whom I hadn't seen for a month, looked very tired and worn out. Why the sudden visit, Max? I asked. Mom, you must have got the bill for the wedding venue by now. Why haven't you paid it? Huh? Oh, the bill for the remaining money. It was $45,000, right? I got it, but I don't have to pay it, I replied. Don't say that. We didn't get many wedding gifts and couldn't pay the bill, so now we're in debt, Max said. Maya laughed and said, from what I heard at the wedding, you two don't have a good reputation. Max, you've been acting bossy at work, and Lily, you've been mean to other women and showing off your looks. No wonder people didn't want to give you wedding gifts. Hey sis, stay out of this, Max said. I sighed and said, you both haven't been considerate of anyone around you, not just me. You caused the wedding expenses, so you should pay them yourselves. Max begged desperately. Mom, I'm in trouble. Lily can't stop spending money, and even her parents are taking advantage of me. Lily's love for money isn't a surprise, Max, and considering Lily's behavior, I can imagine her parents are the same. Please, Mom, think about helping us. Give us some money, Max begged. I replied sternly, you were the one who said, I'm successful, it'll be easy, and told me to stop paying, right? And didn't you say we were cutting ties? I don't have to give you any more money. Mom, don't call me Mom. I don't want to be called that by someone who only sees me as a money source. I'd like you to pay back what you owe for the wedding and engagement party, but I'll let it go. Please leave. Max, who looked shocked before, now looked angry. Are you really okay with this, Mom, cutting ties like this? How will you spend your old age without a husband? Don't you want to see your grandchild? Before I could respond, Mia stepped in. Don't worry. I'll be with Mom. And what can you, an unsuccessful comic artist, do? You can't even have kids. Just be quiet. Max was furious. Ah, so scary. You make fun of me as a failed manga artist, but my manga was one of the best-selling this year. Did you know? It's going to be an anime and movie next year. I'm in a much better financial situation than you with your debts, Mia said confidently. She then revealed her successful career. Max noticed something on her finger. Hey sis, that ring. What's going on? Mia showed the ring on her left finger. Yes, that's what's happening. I'm getting married to my editor. He's important at a big publishing company, so we can take care of Mom. We don't need you anyway. We never planned for our kids to take care of us, Mia said. Thanks, Mia. We'll handle everything ourselves. We'll invite Mom to the wedding, but you don't have to come, I told Max firmly. Mia and I guided Max towards the front door. Please, Mom, and you too, sis, Max said, trying to appeal to us. Then he asked, are you going to give us money? I had a realization. That director at your wedding is a client of my company. It seems your special treatment was because of me. But I've stopped it. Handle things on your own now. Goodbye, I said. Mia and I pushed Max outside and locked the door firmly. Max protested outside, but after a while, it became quiet. A year went by. Right after that, I sold the house to avoid Max and Lily's visits. I bought an apartment for older people to live in when I get old. A neighbor from my old place told me Max and Lily came and made a scene, asking why I wasn't there. So I think selling the house was the right choice. Max and Lily gave up on their dream of a fancy apartment and now live in a small place. Max got demoted at work because of his behavior. He's still working, surprisingly. Lily stopped working after getting married but kept spending money. They ran out of money quickly. Even with debts, Lily keeps spending, and her parents keep asking for money. They fight a lot. I hope they learn how hard it is to earn money and appreciate people. But that might be too much to ask. Mia and I still have a good relationship. Her husband is nice to me and they're expecting a baby. I can't wait to spoil my daughter and grandchild. That's what keeps me going every day. Go away, you useless wife who can't even do chores. I sat on the floor feeling small and insulted, while my mother-in-law stared at me angrily. We don't need you. You always look sad. You're just a burden. My sister-in-law, who never helps at home, said mean things. Wait a second, Morris. Your mom and sister are being too mean. I tried to say, but before I could finish, even my husband Mauricio looked disappointed in me. My mom and sister are right. I don't need a wife who can't do chores and work. I have a young girl who helps part-time and is much better. Pack your things and leave, Mauricio said firmly. All three of them kept saying hurtful things, calling me a bad wife. I clenched my fists, feeling angry. After using me all this time, how could they be so mean? Just you wait. I'll make sure you all get what's coming to you. But I looked at the three of them and said without changing my expression, fine, I'll leave. The family that's been putting everything on me will see what happens next. My name's Eleanor. I'm 32 and a working wife. Nowadays, many women work after getting married. And I've kept working at the same company I joined after finishing college because I enjoy it. One morning, while I was getting ready for work, Mauricio asked me, "Hey Eleanor, can you handle this? Tax season is coming," and he handed me a bunch of receipts and invoices. Again, you should handle the shop's accounting. Mauricio avoided eye contact. You know I'm better at it, so please. I married Mauricio 5 years ago. He used to work at a restaurant where I'd sometimes go. After a few dates, we decided to get married. Now, Mauricio has his own cafe, but he leaves all the boring tasks like buying things and accounting to me. As I headed out the door, my mother-in-law said, "Eleanor, I want Chinese food tonight. Can you get the ingredients?" "No, you can do it when you get back. Also, Vivian and the kids are coming this weekend. Make sure you cook something they'll like," I reluctantly replied before leaving the house. When we got married, I wanted to live just with Mauricio, but he said we should live with his mom because he was worried about her being alone. So we moved to his big family house. My mother-in-law isn't good at cleaning, and the place was a mess when we moved in. She gets money from her pension but spends most of it eating out because she doesn't like cooking. Mauricio always says that housework is a woman's job, so even though I work too, I have to do all the chores for everyone in the family. On top of that, my sister-in-law, Vivian, who moved out after getting married, often comes back home with her kids. When she's here, I have even more work to do. This morning, when I heard she's coming back this weekend, I thought, oh no, not again. And then the dreaded weekend comes. I'd love to relax on my days off from work, but instead, I have to take care of Vivian's kids and cook while rushing around. Vivian drops a big news on me. "Eleanor, by the way, I'm getting divorced and moving back here with the kids next month. Just so you know." "What? Are you serious? Got a problem with that?" No, that must be hard for you. When are you moving back?" "As soon as I can." My sister-in-law is coming home with her kids. At first, I'm surprised, but then I think it might be good because Vivian used to be a housewife, so she might help with the chores. That would make my life easier. Even though we're not very close, I hope for less work and go on with my days. But I quickly realized I was wrong. Vivian, just like her mom, doesn't do anything. She spends all day watching TV and eating snacks. She doesn't work or help around the house. Her laziness with chores was one of the reasons for her divorce. Now I have to do all the chores, even making meals for her fussy kids and getting them ready for school. As time goes on, my job gets busier with a new project needing more hours and early mornings. The house gets messier and messier. Coming home to a messy house is really disappointing, but everyone keeps asking, "When's dinner?" Or saying, "You're so slow." To make things worse, Vivian and my mother-in-law start making rude comments. "Eleanor, the laundry is piling up. Just because you work doesn't mean you can be lazy." But I'm busy too. When I try to explain, Vivian interrupts, talking back to your mother-in-law. "You're so brave, Eleanor. And you've been buying all the meals. That's not good for the kids. If you're home, can't you help a little?" What are you saying? Mauricio owns a business. You don't have to work. You're just selfish. So be a perfect wife. I couldn't believe it, and they acted like it was normal. That night, I was so mad I could burst. So I talked to Mauricio. "I'm busy with work, and neither your mom nor your sister is helping with the chores. Are you saying bad things about my mom and sister Eleanor?" Mauricio looked at me angrily. I said surprised, "No, that's not it. But I can't do all the chores alone. Could you help me a bit? I'm busy with my business. You might not get it because you have an easy job in an office, but running a business is tough. And isn't housework a wife's job? Don't expect me to help." Are you serious? Mauricio just goes to sleep, leaving me upset. But then I get an idea. I think of something good. I quickly grab my phone and order some things online before going to bed. A few days later, a bunch of new gadgets arrive. A machine that washes and dries clothes, a robot that cleans, and kitchen tools that cook by themselves. If no one's going to help me, I'll use these gadgets to make my chores easier. While the delivery guys bring in the new washer, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law arrive. "You bought a new washer without asking. The old one still works." "But it's old, and this will make laundry faster and easier," I argue. "What's all this? A cleaning robot and cooking gadgets. Eleanor, come here." They call me to the living room, where they're sitting on the sofa, and I'm told to sit on the floor. Mauricio is there too, sitting with his mom, looking pleased. "What's happening?" I ask. My mother-in-law yells, "What do you mean, what's happening? You spent all this money on lazy gadgets with the household money. What were you thinking?" I thought it would help with chores. "It's not about helping. People these days rely too much on machines," my sister-in-law adds. "Exactly, Eleanor. And those are fancy items. The ones we have still work. You're just wasting money because Mauricio owns a business." She stares at me, and Mauricio agrees. "But you're just making things easier for yourself. Can't you even do chores properly?" I wanted to reply, "Look who's talking," but I stayed quiet. Finally, my mother-in-law, maybe tired of my quietness, snaps, "If you can't do chores properly, you should leave." I stare at her in surprise. She stares back at me. "We don't need you. Mauricio and I can manage without you. You always seem tired and unhappy. You're just a burden," my sister-in-law says like she's had enough. "Hold on, Mauricio. Your mom and sister are being too mean." When I look to Mauricio for support, he looks down at me and says, "They're right. I don't need a wife who can't handle chores." I look at Mauricio in shock, but he just smirks. "I'm a business owner and I can spend my money however I want. I don't need a wife who spends it to make her life easier." "Why would you say that? And I've been getting along with a young part-time helper. She's pretty, unlike you." "Pack your things and go." Shocked by Mauricio's words, all three start criticizing me, saying I'm a bad wife. I clench my fists in anger. After using me for so long, they say this to me. "Just you wait, I'll make you sorry," but I stayed calm and said, "Okay, I'll go." "Good will be better without you," my mother-in-law said meanly, and I quietly stood up and put something on the table. "Mauricio, let's get divorced." It was a form for divorce that I had prepared earlier. Tired of everything. "Okay, I'll sign it. But don't regret it later." Mauricio signed the papers, and I packed my bags and moved to a temporary apartment the same day. No one said goodbye to me. I handed in the divorce papers at City Hall and rented a new place. At the same time, I accepted a promotion at work that I had been turning down because of housework, and I became a department head. I was able to move forward in my career, which I had almost given up on, and I focused more and more on my job. Happy that nobody was there to hold me back, I felt relieved about a week after leaving. My ex-mother-in-law started calling, but I was busy and didn't want to talk to someone who had called me worthless. I kept ignoring her calls. A year later, on a day when I wasn't working, she called again. Thinking it was time to sort things out, I answered, "Hello? Ah, Eleanor, you finally picked up. Why did you ignore me for over a year? What do you want? Well, how are you? Are you okay? I replied honestly, I'm doing great. Working hard in my own place. I got a better job and more money. I'm living well. Really? Would you think about coming back? She sounded almost desperate, and I asked, surprised, why now? We're having problems. We're running out of money. I couldn't help but smile as I said, oh? Mauricio's cafe isn't even making $11,000 in profit. Huh. And neither you nor your daughter are working. So that makes sense. Eleanor, you knew? Yes, I knew. Mauricio's cafe was only making about $800 a month in profit. I handled the money, so of course I knew. Mauricio's cafe was only making about $800 a month in profit. I handled the money, so of course I knew. Mauricio acted like a big business owner but didn't manage things properly or take care of customers. So he probably didn't know. Of course I knew. I was the one doing all the money stuff and keeping track of what we had. What? Why didn't he tell us? I didn't know you were a big manager at a company and giving so much money for us to live. Yeah, I was giving over $3,000 every month. That's how we all managed. I was adding my money to help because I knew Mauricio's shop wasn't making much. Maybe Mauricio realized he couldn't handle things without my money after I left. Please, Eleanor, come back. Oh, by the way, what happened to Mauricio's shop? Ignoring my ex-mother-in-law's request, I asked, is Mauricio's shop closing next month? Even the part-time helper left him. It's not surprising with such bad management, he can't run a business. And he's too proud to do what he needs to do. No woman would want to be with a man like that. I laughed, and my ex-mother-in-law didn't know what to say. Can we finish? I'm busy, she quickly said. Also, the house has been a mess since you left. She said the house was a mess because no one was cleaning. The house was messy. Nobody was cooking, so they had to buy meals, and they couldn't even buy a new washing machine. It would have been nice if you left those machines, ex-mother-in-law says. What are you saying? Those lazy machines? And why can't I take what I paid for? I shouldn't have said that, but I never thought the house would get like this just because nobody was doing chores, I said, getting a bit annoyed. Isn't it strange that 3 grown-ups can't handle chores? What are your daughter and Mauricio doing? She whispered. Well, Mauricio is sitting at home all day, doing nothing since he found out his shop isn't making money. He said he could spend his money however he wanted because he's a business owner. And Vivian won't work, no matter what I say. She doesn't do chores. And she even asks me for money for herself and her kids. My pension is running out. Really? Your daughter told me she didn't need me because she had you, I said coldly. My ex-mother-in-law tried to be nice again. Please, Eleanor, my pension isn't enough for us anymore. I don't want to go back to that house. Your children are quite the freeloaders, aren't they? She didn't know what to say. As I was about to end the call, she kept talking. Eleanor, we'll change. Please come back. Let's all be happy together again. Sure, be happy with a useless wife, I interrupted, and she struggled with her words but kept begging. I'm sorry for what I said. We're family. Help us. We can't even pay the taxes for the house. We'll have to sell it. I don't have to help you, and I don't want to. Figure it out yourselves. Goodbye from your useless wife. I hung up and blocked her number, ignoring her cries. Sipping my coffee in my tidy apartment, I chuckled. 3 months later, I happened to walk past Mauricio's cafe. It was closed. Even their house was sold. According to a neighbor I met, they sold the house and moved to a small apartment nearby. They caused trouble in the neighborhood, always fighting and making a mess. People complained a lot. They could have worked hard and taken care of their home. But they didn't, which wasn't surprising. I looked at their old house and walked away. Since then, I've focused on my work. Recently, a nice colleague told me he liked me, saying, I love how you work so hard. Let's date and maybe get married. I think my next marriage isn't far off, and this time, I'm excited to find happiness. Hi, I'm Heather, and I'm 23 years old. A couple of years ago, I got married to the person I adore. Despite my husband being French, our relationship was smooth sailing except for the language difference. To bridge the gap and connect better with him and his family, I took up learning French without them knowing. It was my way of showing how much I cared for them. My husband, Frederick, and his mom, Avril, had no clue about my secret language lessons. I not only learned French but also became quite good at it through hard work and practice. I reached a point where I felt confident enough that I could survive in France if I had to. You might wonder why my husband doesn't know about my skills. Truthfully, I was a bit shy. Speaking someone's native language can be intimidating, especially when you're always around them. But I finally decided it was time to overcome my shyness. I stopped speaking French with both my husband and my mother-in-law because the whole point was to improve communication, right? It turned out to be fortunate that I hadn't started speaking French with them yet, because one day I overheard a conversation that led to some unexpected events. "Hi Mom, how are you today? Thanks for inviting me over on this beautiful Sunday afternoon." "It's our pleasure, dear." "Hello Mom." "Hello my dear. How are you? Thanks for having me." "Don't mention it. You're always welcome here. I brought some croissants and what do you Americans call them? Bagels." "Yes, bagels and croissants for our afternoon tea." "How thoughtful. Thank you. Please, come and sit, Mom. The food will be ready soon." "Did she cook?" "No, I did most of the prep work. Don't worry." I was relieved to hear that, though I couldn't help but wonder what she meant by it. However, I was too shy to ask. It was odd because Avril usually enjoyed my cooking. I figured maybe she just wanted her son's cooking that day, something familiar. Then I overheard her saying, "I can't stand her cooking. Why did you even invite me over? We should have gone to a cafe to avoid her." "Mom, remember we agreed to speak English so Heather doesn't feel left out?" "Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I was just saying the food looks delicious. I was surprised to find out that it was my husband who cooked. I wish it was your cooking. I always love your food." This left me baffled. How could she say those mean things in French and then lie to me in English? I started to doubt my translation, but I had a plan to confirm my suspicions. "Don't worry, you can speak French if you prefer. It's your language after all. I'll be okay." I decided to use the Google Translate app to record her conversation to ensure I understood correctly. At this point, I doubted my translation skills. As we all sat down to eat, what I heard next shocked me. "I want to discuss our plan. The time is nearing. It's practically tomorrow, Frederick. You need to be serious." The app, along with my understanding of French, confirmed that there was indeed a plan being discussed. "But Mom, not now." I said I'll handle it. "Heather, my dear, what are you going to tell her? Could you pass me the sugar, please? She doesn't know anything about the plan." "I was just going to tell her I'll be out of town." "Out of town? Why?" I was utterly confused by what was happening. Despite my confusion, I stayed composed, not revealing that I could hear their conversation, so I could strategize my next move. "Yes, Mom, I understand. I'll take care of it. I know how crucial this is. It's incredibly important. If your great uncle doesn't see us tomorrow, he might give the house to someone else, like your cousin or aunt. We can't let that happen. No one should know about this house." "Oh, Mom, you have such a sense of humor." "Don't worry, I was just speaking English so Heather wouldn't suspect anything." "Heather? Suspect what?" "Oh, sorry, dear. I was just asking who made this delightful tea. It's wonderful." "That would be your talented son. I'm not as skilled as he is in these matters." "Oh, darling, your cooking is fantastic. Terribly fantastic, Mom. She might catch on." "No, she won't. She's too clueless to understand us." "I'm not so sure, Mom. She probably understands some basics, I think." "Let's test it, Heather. How much French do you know?" At that moment, I realized I had to play dumb and pretend I didn't understand anything, allowing them to reveal more of their intentions and true nature. I'm still pretty terrible at French. I only know basic phrases like bonjour and comment tout appels. "Oh, that won't do, dear. You should learn more French." "Yes, ma'am. I'll work on it." "Well, at least it's convenient for Frederick and me so we can gossip about you." "I'm just joking, my dear. We would never do that to you." "Isn't that what we're doing now?" "Yes, and that's what makes it even funnier." They laughed while I continued recording the conversation with Google Translate. As I did, I also checked various apps, websites, and forums to verify the accuracy of what they were saying. After cross-referencing, I found about 90% confirmation, confirming my initial suspicions. Now that I realized they didn't have much regard for me and were openly mocking me, I knew I had to gather more information. Their insults were like slow cuts, but what I heard next shook me to my core. As I was saying, this house is crucial. No one else can know about it. Understand? We stand to make a lot of money if we keep this to ourselves. I'm relieved we didn't tell my wife about this. I don't want to share the profits with her. Me neither. Everything has to go smoothly. Your great uncle Pierre made it clear that whoever contacts him first inherits the mansion. We need to get there before anyone else and start renovating. I can't wait to have a house in California. It'll be my escape from my wife and life in Florida. Sometimes I can't stand her. You're still young. You shouldn't be tied down to someone like her at your age. Come live with me in California. Enjoy your youth with women and parties. When you're ready to settle down, you can. Let's leave this place behind. Actually, Mom, I think you're onto something. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Tears welled up in my eyes. Excuse me, is everything all right? Yes, I just need to grab something from the kitchen. I left the room before hearing anything more. I needed a moment to compose myself and avoid causing a scene. How could they say such cruel things with me right there? It was beyond shameful. I was distraught, pacing back and forth in the kitchen. Suddenly, an idea struck me. When I noticed my mother-in-law's purse on the counter, I decided to peek inside and take her phone. Luckily, it was unlocked. I opened her WhatsApp and sent Uncle Pierre's number to mine. Quickly, I deleted the message from her phone, leaving no trace. It was as if instinct guided my actions. I didn't fully understand why I did it, but I felt a sense of empowerment, plotting to retaliate against them for their hurtful words. I re-entered the dining room, where the conversation about their scheme continued. So tomorrow we start our trip. It's well-deserved after all the hard work lately. I agree. We could use a break. Everything all right? Yes, dear. We were just discussing the lovely weather and how perfect it is for a relaxing getaway. Would you like to join? Maybe not today, Freddie. All right. When then? Perhaps tomorrow. I observed closely as both Avril and Frederick tensed slightly, a reaction I anticipated, given what I knew of their plans. Tomorrow might not work. I asked Freddie to assist with some tasks around the house. What tasks? Why so many questions? Just rearranging things. I can lend a hand too, if needed. Not necessary. Do you see how nosy she's being? It's irritating. This is why you need to leave. Don't worry, Mom. I've got it under control. Despite knowing their true thoughts, I maintained a smile, finding solace in the anticipation of the revenge I would soon enact. I continued recording their conversations until the very end, determined to extract every detail. While my French had improved significantly, I still double-checked to ensure accuracy. That night, I stealthily slipped away from the bedroom to the office for further investigation. As I replayed the audio, any doubts about my understanding vanished. From this ordeal, I gleaned that they planned to vacation tomorrow to claim a house from great Uncle Pierre, and they harbored resentment towards me, even plotting to leave me. As I paced in the kitchen, leaving my recording phone behind, I inadvertently captured more valuable information. Avril sought Frederick's computer password to alter flight details. I struck gold, obtaining both password and flight information. I had hit the jackpot. I accessed Fred's computer and found the flight details on the website where he booked the tickets. Feeling both sneaky and devious, I may or may not have altered the flight details, postponing their departure to the day after tomorrow. This marked just the beginning of my plans. There was much more to come. With great Uncle Pierre's number safely sent to myself, I was prepared to take action. Hello, Uncle Pierre, it's Heather. Oh, hello, dear. How are you? Is everything all right? Well, no, not really. I recounted the day's events in detail, even sending him the audio recording as proof. Without it, I doubted he would believe me. We ended the call so he could listen to the recordings, reconvening once he had finished reviewing everything. I'm at a loss for words. How could Avril and Frederick do this? They were such sweet and innocent people when they were younger. How could they betray you? Me? It's a lot to process. I was just as shocked. You've certainly improved your French. Well done. Thank you, Pierre. But now that we know, what should we do? Well, they won't be getting the house, that's for sure. After hearing all this, I can't in good conscience give such a gift to people planning to destroy it with their greed and foolishness. Understood. It's your house, and you have every right to decide its fate. Absolutely. I'll be ignoring their calls from now on. Let's see how they like that. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. You're a good person, Heather. Don't let the darkness of this world change that. Thank you for your time and courage in sharing this with me. It couldn't have been easy. I admire your strength. Take care of yourself. Uncle Pierre, you too. Good night. With that, I felt assured that Avril and Frederick's downfall was imminent. Now that all the pieces were in place, I only needed to wait for the opportune moment to set things in motion. Returning to the bedroom, I found Frederick still sound asleep. It saddened me to think that my beloved husband could treat me this way. If only we had talked things through, perhaps we could have found a solution. Instead, he chose a path of deceit. I took his phone and disabled his alarm. Without it, he would sleep indefinitely, and that's precisely what happened. I gathered my belongings and decided to spend the night at a hotel. I couldn't bear to stay in the same house with someone like Frederick. The next day was pure chaos. I'm certain Frederick woke up to a barrage of missed calls from his mother, scrambling to pack since he foolishly hadn't done so the day before, and rushing to get to the airport. I received a call from him around 2 p.m. "Where are you? Why didn't my alarm go off, and why aren't you here?" I decided to take a day off for myself. That's nice. A heads up would have been appreciated though. Likewise, Freddie. What do you mean? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm running late for my flight, my meeting with Mom. Why are you in such a hurry? She wouldn't mind if you were a bit late. You don't understand. Anyway, it's fine. I won't be home tonight or tomorrow night. I have things to take care of. See you later. Before I could respond, he hung up. He was probably too overwhelmed to realize that I had changed his flight details to the next day. Using the Find My iPhone app, I saw him heading to the airport. Imagine rushing out of the house, barely making it to the airport in time, only to discover that your flight had been canceled. I'm sure he was frantic, rushing around the airport. Suddenly, I received a call from Avril. "What have you done?" "What do you mean, Avril? I know you changed our flight." "If you mean I changed the date, then yes, I did." "Why?" "I thought I was helping. You mentioned needing Freddie's help with something today. When I saw the flight booked for today, I figured I'd adjust it." "You're welcome, Frederick. Come talk to your wife before I reach through the phone and throttle her." "Heather, stop whatever you're doing. Uncle Pierre still isn't answering. Try again." "He's not answering because he doesn't want to talk to you too." "You understand us? Every word?" "But how?" "I warned you, Mom. I said she might understand." "So you heard everything yesterday?" "Yes. Here's what's happening. I'm divorcing your useless son and leaving you too. Have a nice day. Oh, and next time you want to gossip about someone in their presence, make sure they don't understand. Goodbye." I ended the call before they could respond. I had enough of their drama. Later that day, Uncle Pierre called. "Hello, dear. How are you holding up?" "I'm a bit shaken. I just had a terrible argument with Fred and Avril, and now I'm divorcing Fred. I'm sorry things turned out this way, Heather. It's part of life, I suppose." "How are you feeling?" "Well, I finally confronted them, and they're not happy about it." "What'd you say?" "I told Fred he's foolish for mistreating you, and I called Avril out for involving her son in her schemes. And I told them I'd given you the house." "You did what?" "Yes, dear, the mansion is yours. Even if you divorce Fred, it's yours to share with whoever you choose." I'm speechless. It's overwhelming. I wanted the house to go to someone kind, resilient, and compassionate. That's you. It's the least I could do after all they put you through. Take it. And just like that, not only did I rid myself of two toxic individuals who didn't truly care about me, but I also acquired a multi-million-dollar mansion. Watching me gain the house they coveted so much drove Avril and Frederick into a frenzy. They bombarded me with death threats daily, but I simply replied with pictures of different parts of the house. A subtle reminder that it belonged to me, not them. Revenge had never felt so satisfyingly luxurious.